The Tech It Up Talk podcast aspires to educate, inform, and inspire educators from teachers to school leaders on tips, tools, and resources to support the integration of technology into classroom instruction.
You ready? Here we go.
You're listening to Tech It Up Talk with Dr. Mac, your host with the most passion for supporting educators from teachers to school leaders with the integration of technology. Today's episode is all about forward-thinking leadership, how school leaders can leverage artificial intelligence, AI, to make smarter decisions, foster innovation, and prepare their teams for the future. Joining me today is Claubentz Dieujuste, a dedicated school leader and educational consultant who is leading the charge when it comes to AI-driven leadership. His work bridges practice and innovation, and today we'll talk about how AI is shifting the way we lead, support teams, and drive results in schools and beyond. And so I want to welcome to the Tech It Up Talk podcast, Claubentz. Welcome. How are you?
I'm good, Dr. Mac. Thank you so much for having me. Happy to be here.
Oh, I'm glad to have you here. Well, just start off by sharing your journey into educational leadership and what sparked your interest in the power of AI in schools.
So, my journey is one that is inspired by legacy, as I like to say. I come from a family of educators. My father was an educator. I grew up in a small town in Haiti. He created a school in a community where a school didn't exist, and young people didn't have an opportunity to just learn basic writing and reading and doing math. And so he decided that was a need of the community, and he was going to create a school. And so as I grew up and learned about his story, I kind of took that on, especially since I had a love for education. And just jumped into what I love doing. Incidentally, I was supposed to be a doctor, so I was all through college. I was in a pre-med program until I decided, after years of tutoring on campus, that teaching and learning was my passion. And so I jumped right into education, and this is 25 years in. And I've been doing this work and loving every step of the way.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Now, we're talking about AI today. And if you can share with us, how do you see AI transforming the way school leaders make their strategic decisions, whether that's around instruction, data, or operations?
Yeah. I mean, AI provides us with real-time insight, right? So I think a lot of people are afraid of AI, but AI is really, it's like having a really powerful thought partner. And so you can take, data and in a split second, really get an analysis that you would have to take time to really delve into, or create formulas in Excel or Google Sheets to figure out. And then you can really, with a strong prompt, figure out the best way to analyze this data and make really solid decisions that are data-driven decisions.
Yes, I love that. It's so incredible how AI is really helping leaders really shift from being more reactive to proactive decision making. And so we can
Correct.
definitely kind of see patterns before they become problems. And so I love the decision making piece, because that's usually a big piece of the work in leadership is decision making and leveraging your resources and your knowledge and really thinking through things. And it really becomes a strong partner, a strong thought partner in those processes.
Absolutely. And again, it gives you those real-time insights, so you can really, as you said, make some proactive decisions rather than being reactive.
Right. And so what are some ways school leaders can integrate AI tools to really enhance their team productivity or innovation?
I mean, I think some simple ways. For instance, for starters, you can use an AI tool to take meeting minutes for you, right? So a lot of times we prepare these agendas and we sit around and we have somebody taking notes, and they don't really get to be a part of that conversation because they're trying to capture what's being said. And so using something like Fireflies or Otter as you do a meeting, gives you the freedom and time to really get into the meeting, and then it'll synthesize the notes for you after, right? So it creates these opportunities for you to save time, and get the talent in the room to have a voice and really be a part of that conversation.
I love that because we get so busy sometimes, especially when you're in meetings and you want to take notes, and sometimes it's just kind of hard to be engaged in the conversation and capture all the information and make sure
Hmm.
that everyone walks away with the same um, perspectives or similar perspectives on the same page before they leave. And I think it really closes that gap in being your note taker for you, right?
Yeah.
Like I use Fireflies a lot, and I see people that use Otter and some other programs as well. But it definitely helps with maximizing your leadership and really capitalizing and really creating a space to where you can have your administrators grow and really expand beyond their workday, because now we are communicating effectively. We have notes, we have action items that are
Correct.
set and schedule, and even things for you to go back and consider, because sometimes we get into these conversations and like, wait, what did we say we are going to do here? Or or maybe you may have leaders in your meetings with you like, well, what did he say that we're going to do? And so you can kind of go back and leverage those action item pieces, and even close the gaps and how to close the meeting for next steps. And
Yeah.
so I love that.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, right? When you talk about the action items, it's if you go through an hour-long meeting, for instance, if you weren't capturing the action items in the moment, by the end of the meeting, when you're trying to recall, as you said, right? Like, what? So who's gonna do what? Who's responsible for what? What is the thing that we're supposed to be doing from minute 1 to minute 60 of the meeting? Um, the AI tool, as your assistant, is going to track all of those things and giving you the items and figure out, and tell you who's responsible for what. And then you can, what I do is I let my AI assistant take all the notes and do all that for us. And then after the meeting, I'll let everybody know, okay, so I'm gonna send you all the meeting recap with all the action items, and then we can reconvene next week and figure out where everybody is on their assigned items.
Yeah, I love that. And one thing I do now too is like when I'm in a meeting, maybe well, let's say it was a meeting we weren't necessarily on a virtual meeting. Maybe we're just meeting in person, or I may go do an observation, right? And so you don't have like your AI assistant capturing everything in real time and in the moment. What I started leveraging is, since I have like ChatGPT on my phone, I leverage the voice feature and do like the text to speech, well, the speech to text, I
Hmm.
should say. And so it's been such a game changer because I don't have to worry about being grammatically correct,
Yep.
saying it right, stumbling over my words, but I can easily just hold up my phone and just say, "Hey, in today's meeting, I did X, Y, and Z. I need to make sure I follow up on this. This person needs to do this piece," and I can just talk it out and just talk out my thoughts, and then it creates the same thing that you would do if the AI assistant was in the meeting. And so now I have a meeting summary, and then I can generate an email with action steps. And so I've leveraged that to really help maximize my time in meetings, which has been a tremendous load in trying to do recall later on when you don't have the AI in real time with you all the time.
Yeah. I mean, it saves really a lot of hours of work that you would have had to do, whether in the meeting or after the meeting, that you now no longer have to do. I mean, there are so many things that you could do, right? You could take, let's say you were looking at trends. You had these observation reports that somebody else wrote that you wanted to kind of see patterns and trends. You can just ask, with the right prompt. Again, you can ask the right prompt, um, analyze these different observations. Tell me what trends you see. Where are the gaps? Where are the growth areas? Where are the celebration areas that we can really talk to? How do we coach this teacher, based on this information that we didn't have before, right? And in real time, you're getting that kind of feedback from a thought partner that you didn't have before. So I think it's just, as you said, this is just a game changer.
Right. So when we're thinking about future ready leadership mindsets, what skills or mindsets do you believe today's and tomorrow's leaders need to develop to effectively lead in an AI driven world?
So, you know, going back to what I said earlier about, some people being afraid of AI, right? People being afraid that AI is going to take their job. Human-centered leadership remains essential, right? You can't, we're not trying to replace that, right? Even in a high-tech world. But I think you definitely need to have skills like digital curiosity, right? Comfort with learning and testing new tech tools, right? Obviously, because of the nature of this, you have to have ethical judgment, right? So understanding not just what AI can do, but what it should do, right? And I think this, especially in the school setting, allows for us to really educate our kids, because a lot of things that we're thinking about a lot now in schools is AI policies, right? So how do we get kids to use AI ethically, and but I think that that kind of thinking, while it's necessary, what it does for some of us is that it gets us to a place where we're trying to prevent kids from doing this or from doing that, when instead we should really think about how do we get them to think about how this really just accelerates their learning, right?
Right.
I think as leaders, we have to be adaptable. We have to be resilient. Thriving in a fast-paced, tech-evolving environment. One of the things we learned, even outside of AI, during the pandemic, we learned we had to be nimble. We had to be, we had to think on our feet. We had to really think about how we move, how we pivot. I actually wrote an article about that piece, pivoting from to remote learning. Collaboration with AI, right? AI, knowing how to frame good prompts. I got a certificate from Vanderbilt in prompt engineering, and that was one of the best things that I did for myself as a leader. Really know like the power of really good prompts, right? Getting to a place where you can get AI to be more efficient in the work that it's doing, and thus really elevate your practice.
Right. I love that. I love it. One thing I always say, tech fluency is important, but, mindset is everything. And you can't lead transformation if you fear change. And so I love the fact that you really invested in yourself and was like, hey, I'm going to figure out how I can leverage this, really maximize my efforts. And then which comes out as a win-win for everyone, because now you're leading others. And now they can also look at how you're modeling and applying these things into practice. And even today, like sharing with everyone else how you're leveraging AI as a school leader and what you've done to really invest in yourself, because that was a mindset thing that, some people are
Yeah,
scared, some people are fearful, but you have to step out and try and not be afraid of change,
yeah,
and create those opportunities. And I love the word prompt engineering, because when you think about the future jobs of, tomorrow, and that our students sit in, and we talk about engineering in so many different facets, but now we can talk about AI. If you don't know how to prompt AI appropriately, that could be a deficit in the future, right?
yeah, for sure.
Uh, as a skill set. And so I love that school districts are starting to think about AI policy and how to leverage it for students. I do think it's important for leaders to be a consumer of it first, so they can better understand it.
Yeah,
And so teachers too, of course, and it helps them with ideating and thinking through once they become consumers themselves, and leveraging for themselves to think through how we can now leverage resources and tools that may have some guardrails with students, and may even think about rethinking how we assess our students' knowledge, with
yeah,
knowing that we have AI, or they have AI at their fingertips.
yeah. I mean, the other piece, right? As leaders, the best leaders are those who ask questions, right? Like the best leaders are the best coaches. And to be a coach, like I do some coaching, some leadership coaching on, with not only at my school, but on the side with some other leaders. The best leaders will be those who know how to ask to ask better questions. And I think what prompt engineering does is that you're asking better questions of a machine, right? Like how do I And the best thing about prompt engineering is that one of the things that I've learned early on in this course is that you can ask AI when you give it a prompt to suggest a better prompt and ask you if you want to use that instead, right? So like having that partnership or that thought partnership, there's something amazing about how this makes you better, right? Because you can even in the way you speak, even in the way that you're like you can put something in there and say, how do I sound, right? How do I want to sound this way? How would you suggest that I frame this? And especially as leaders, we have to have difficult conversations all the time, right? And so as we prepare, as we think about this conversation I have coming up, opening up, whether it's Chat GPT or Gemini or whatever other tool, and having an actual conversation as a thought partner and say, hey, I have this thing coming up. Here's what I'm thinking. What do you think about this? And that's that part about how to best use the tool, is to really think about it as a tool that can kind of help you. One, you have your own coach in this tool, but you're also telling it what you want, and really refining that product that you want to get to the best product possible.
Yeah, I love that. And I want to kind of think about or give you opportunity to kind of share. And you kind of alluded to some of these things just in talking in general, but what are some ways where AI was used or significantly impacted your leadership outcomes in a positive way, or maybe even a lesson learned?
Yeah, I mean, I think I like you said, I talked a little bit about some of the things that I use AI for. One of the things that I wanted to do coming into this school year was, especially with AI being the talk, right? Like everybody's talking about AI. How do you use this? How do you do that? Is it going to take over this? Are the students going to cheat and do everything, right? But I wanted to use it in a way. I wanted to figure out a way to use it to better my practice. I was coming into a school year where I had, because of staffing challenges, I had to increase my workload. And so by taking on some additional responsibilities, because I didn't have a full team. And what I found incredibly useful was the use of AI to really support my planning, to support something as simple as thinking about going into a classroom, because one of the goals that I came into this school year with was I want to see a set number of classes per day, and of course with the number of hours you spend behind the desk doing paperwork, it just makes it a little bit difficult to do that. But with just going into a classroom and coming back to my desk and say, I went into so-and-so's classroom, I saw this, draft, two pieces of feedback that I want to give to this teacher. Right away, I'm getting something back that I can, in the moment, give feedback to a teacher. I got to a place where I started creating custom GPTs myself. So I created a GPT for classroom walkthroughs that I started using, and teaching it how to, feeding it the framework that we use to evaluate teachers. So that was a big piece that really helped going into my different meetings that I had, or supporting the different teams that I didn't support before, and really helped me think about how I develop their capacity, thinking about professional development in a different way, thinking about developing tools that we can use for walkthroughs as an instructional leadership team. So all of those things I did. I was coaching a principal in Ghana this year, and so he asked me to coach him. We met him I went to the conference last year, so we met him, and he reached out and asked if I would be his coach, and I said, well, I can try to support. And so, but but I'm in my initial meeting with him. He kind of shared some of his challenges, and so using one of the GPTs that I developed around coaching, I use that tool to help me develop a coaching plan that we then incorporated into our coaching sessions. And now his school is thriving. Some of the things that he was working on are coming to fruition. And I'm gonna be going back to the conference this year, but I'm also going to be the keynote speaker at his graduation, and just some of the things that they're working on that he really wants me to come see. So again, as just in my school building, I'm seeing a lot of the things that AI allowed me to do, and in my own coaching of others, seeing how I could use that tool as a thought partner to kind of help me plan and support others.
One, I want to just commend you just for all the things that you're doing. One, I'll just start with the teacher side and just leveraging the fact that we can leverage AI to create a space that is tailored to support the needs that you have. So the fact that you're creating your own GPTs is really inspirational for other leaders, because that's something that they can do, and you don't have to start from scratch. You can leverage your own GPT, and it's not that hard to do. To
Not at
create your
all.
own custom framework that kind of builds a guide based on what you want it to filter out or do, but then to leverage that to build an international cross the seas relationship that then has an impact not only for your school or your stakeholders that you support here in the US, but then to cross over and share that expectation, that love with other school leaders in the different country. I just think is amazing, and a testament to your commitment as a school leader. And so I just want to commend you for that, because that's something that
Thank you.
yeah, I mean, it's a small thing we do, but we lead with passion, and we can see that your passion is in making an impact in education. And I'm sure that school is going to be super blessed when you go do the keynote. And so you got to make sure you take pictures and send and
Oh, I'm
share.
super excited. I'm super excited.
Yes, and so AI is definitely a powerful tool and definitely can help with shaping relationships, but we also have to be responsible too, of course. And so,
Of course,
uh,
of course.
as we begin to embrace AI in education, what ethical considerations do you think school leaders should keep top of mind?
I mean, ethical leadership in AI requires intentional design, transparency, and accountability, right? You have to consider, the biases that can come in, and especially that's why prompt engineering is so important, right? Because as you're teaching the machine your habits, right? So one of the things that you can always do is, especially if you have like a Chat GPT subscription or something, there are certain things that you can ask it to commit to memory as you're feeding it, so that you don't have to repeat it when you come back. And so it starts learning who you are, what you are, right? How you think, right? So AI reflects the data that it's trained on, so watch out for biased outputs, right? So you don't want, and of course, the grave mistake that some people make is that trusting whatever comes out of their prompt, right? From AI. So you have to you can't take out the human factor,
Right.
and I think you're also compromising your integrity if you're really not reviewing what's in there. So data privacy, right? Protecting student and staff data must be a non-negotiable, right? So you don't want to put identifiers in AI that can compromise confidentiality and things like that, right? And transparency, right? So let stakeholders know when and how AI is being used, right? So when I go into a meeting with my team or a teacher team, before turning on Fireflies, I ask everybody, or I tell everybody, I'm going to use my AI assistant for note-taking purposes so that I can send the notes afterwards, right? I think that makes people comfortable because they know,
Right.
One, you're not going in there recording everybody for your own purposes, right? You have to give everybody the courtesy of transparency. And then consent and autonomy. AI should empower, not monitor or replace human contributions, right? While it's such a great tool to use, you don't want it to now be the thing that you rely on and deny everybody else the opportunity to share what their thoughts are, what their what they think. Let's say you have at a school you have um, different voices that you want to incorporate into initiatives, and as you roll out things for the school. If you start using AI and you're the one with AI, your AI tool coming up with everything, then you put a muzzle on everybody else on in your school, and their voices are just now muted, right? And so you don't want to do that. So just empower, not monitor or replace human contributions. So if your AI solution can't be explained in plain language to your community, it probably shouldn't be implemented yet.
I love that. One, I love the fact that you asked for permission first. I remember when I was still in seat as the director of digital learning, I would have vendors just automatically just start recording the conversation. I'm like, wait, I know why they're recording, because they're really just trying to capture the notes so they can be good stewards and come back and support you as their customer. But sometimes asking for permission, to record and be transcribed, because sometimes it does the video and the text, and or vice versa,
Yeah,
and you want to ask for permission. So I love that as an ethical practice, not just to assume that it's okay to record and leverage
right.
AI in your Zooms and your meetings automatically without it being a norm um or or an ask, right? And so I think that's heavily important. And so I love that you also brought the fact that you don't want to take the human factor out of it, because I think it's really important in the culture of a school to have different perspectives and
Correct.
different voices. And so I love the fact that you share, you don't want to mute people out. So I love that, because we can get carried away. Say, oh, this can plan the whole thing for me. I don't have to have any
Yeah,
input. No,
yeah,
you still want to have input from your stakeholders or from whoever you're serving with, because in the benefit of the kids, of course, because we want student achievement at the end of the day. However, that comes with different perspectives and thinking through different things. And so AI can't just be the only force that kind of guides that. So we still have
yeah,
that space for us to add different perspectives, even if they're using AI, right? If
yeah,
their AI
yeah.
knows them, and you guys are coming,
Exactly, exactly.
so I love that. I'll add one more thing too. I think that leaders should consider, because I think sometimes they don't realize um, uh, student data, or even just data in general, like being really considerate about what data they're entering into AI. And so, like, personal identifying information, or things like that, you want to definitely be considerate of what information you're putting in. It's a great resource in analyzing data and trends, and can do a phenomenal job. But we don't want to you know um, abuse the luxury of leveraging AI
Yeah,
and
yeah,
entering data that we may not need it to do. So you might want to use some pseudo NIMs, or take some of the personal pieces out, especially if you're like looking at, let's say, scores, and you have
yeah,
this person's name and this person's ID. We may not need their name and ID. You may want to give
yeah,
them a
yeah.
color or a number, or however you want to do it, just to be able to still analyze, but don't necessarily give put their personal identifying information in. So it's really important to consider that. As you know, there are laws out there that we want to respect in education, and so
Correct.
sometimes we can get carried away. So I want to add that piece on there. So
Absolutely. And if you have a CSV file, you can delete the columns with the names and the student ID numbers. You can just keep the scores. You can keep the maybe an identifier that says this score belongs to a special ed student. This score belongs to a general ed student. You don't need the names for that for that. And again, the prompts matter. It tells you tell the machine what you want to discern from this data, and it'll help you do that. I mean, at the end of the day, AI won't replace leaders, but leaders who embrace AI will definitely outpace those who don't, right? But to your point, you have to use AI responsibly.
yes. All right. Well, if leaders or anyone that's listening today could walk away with one key insight about AI driven leadership, what do you want it to be?
I mean, I think it's the last piece I just said, right? I think AI won't replace leaders, but AI leaders who embrace AI will definitely outpace those who don't.
Right.
It's a great tool to enhance your practice. If you are a lifelong learner, as you should be as a leader, AI could definitely help you grow in so many different areas because information, we live in the information age, and I think using AI to really support your development could be a great strategy. AI could also help you manage some of the routines that you have that can be taken over, and thus freeing your time to really be present in the classrooms, to be present in those teacher teams if you run a school or at an organization, spending time with different stakeholders in the organization to learn from them and learn about them and coaching them and giving them feedback on the work that you want to see.
Yes, and before I close, I want to share that we had one of our watchers share. I think when you were talking about the creating your own GPT. And so we have my Golden Steam shared that what a creative way to leverage GPT. Yes. And so definitely want to let you know that people are watching and commenting. So thank you for tuning in and sharing your thoughts. We definitely
Yes, thank you.
appreciate it. Yes. And so yeah, thank you so much for just joining us and just really giving us a clear, grounded, and an inspiration vision of what AI driven leadership could look like in our schools. And your work shows us that this isn't just about replacing leaders; it's about elevating them, which is so important in the work that we do. And to our listeners today, AI is here, and no. And the question is no longer if, but how, right? We'll
Yeah.
use it. So let's use it thoughtfully, equitably, of course, and with the same passion we bring to every student every day. And so I just want you to share before you go, like if people wanted to connect with you and learn more about how you're leveraging AI and your leadership practices, how can they connect with you?
I have. You can find me on LinkedIn, Claubentz Dieujuste. Feel free to send me a message there, and we can connect and have a follow up conversation and see how we can support one another.
All right. Well, again, I want to thank you all for tuning in to the Tech It Up Talk podcast with Dr. Mack, where we explore how to level up learning, leadership, and school culture through innovation. Until next time, keep leading with purpose and keep leading with tech. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Mike, and thank you, everybody.